Every sport has its legends. Some become heroes, some become villains, and some become both. In the world of trophy bass fishing, no name sparks more debate than Mike Long. For years, he was considered one of the greatest big bass hunters of all time. His connection to Dottie, the world-famous largemouth that nearly broke the world record, made him a household name in the fishing world. But as quickly as he rose, he fell. Accusations of snagging, cheating, and transporting fish would eventually destroy his reputation, leaving one of the darkest stains on trophy bass fishing history. In the early 2000s, Southern California was the epicenter of giant largemouth bass fishing. Clear, deep reservoirs like Dixon Lake were stocked with rainbow trout, and where there's stocked trout, there are giant largemouth bass. While most anglers were happy landing a 5-pounder, Mike Long had bigger goals. He wasn't after numbers, he wanted legends. He wanted fish in the teens, double digits, giant largemouth bass. So now the reason why Southern California's bass were growing so large like Dottie is in the 1950s and 1960s, California introduced Florida strain largemouth bass. Unlike the northern strain, the Florida strain grow much larger, especially when given the right forage. Now, California regularly stocks rainbow trout in these reservoirs in Southern California for recreational fishing opportunities, but these fish are all about 8 to 12 inches long, which makes them the perfect size forage for a growing Florida strain largemouth bass. Most lakes around the country have bluegill, shad, or crawfish as the main forage, a great food, but not enough to consistently grow world record caliber fish. California's trout stocking basically gave bass a superfood diet. The diet, combined with California's mild climate, which means long growing season and no harsh winters, created the perfect conditions for bass to reach freakish sizes. By the late 80s and 90s, Southern California reservoirs were producing 15 to 20 pound fish, unheard of almost anywhere else. So guys like Mike Long, Jed Dickerson, and Mac Weekly became obsessed with patterning these giants. They threw swim baits designed to imitate stock trout like Huddlestons and Ospreys. These lures became legendary because they specifically targeted trout eaters. Dottie herself became a trout specialist. Anglers often cited her cruising in areas where hatchery trout were just stocked. Every time the hatchery truck showed up at Dixon Lake, trophy hunters knew the giants would be on the prowl. Because the fish were so conditioned to eating trout, they grew predictably massive. That predictability gave anglers like Long an edge. But while other trophy hunters caught giants with skill and patience, suspicions grew that Long cut corners, snagging bass near bedding areas, rather than honestly tempting them with trout swim baits. Mike built a reputation for catching fish others only dreamed about. He was secretive, mysterious, and almost mythical. He didn't fish with many people, and when he did, the stories of giant bass followed him everywhere. But one fish changed everything. The fish's name was Dottie, a massive largemouth that lived in Dixon Lake. She had a distinctive black mark, a dot just below her gill plate that made her instantly recognizable. And she wasn't just big, she was historic. In 2001, Mike Long reportedly caught Dottie. The fish weighed 20 pounds, 12 ounces. Fish of a lifetime, but that was just the beginning. In 2003, another angler, Mac Weekly, caught Dottie at over 21 pounds. Then in 2006, Weekly, Jed Dickerson, and Mike Wynn hooked her again. This time she weighed an unbelievable 25 pounds, 1 ounce. The catch would have smashed the world record, but there was a problem. The fish was foul hooked, snagged just kind of in the side of the head underneath the mouth. So according to the rules, it didn't count. Even so, Dottie became a legend. She was bigger than life, a swimming world record that anglers traveled across the country to see. She turned Dixon Lake into a mecca for trophy hunters, and she turned Mike Long into a star, since he was the first one to ever catch and lay his hands on Dottie. But as Dottie's fame grew, so did the rumors. Anglers began to whisper about Mike Long. He never let people fish with him. He staged photos in strange ways. There were stories that he transported bass from one lake to another. Like he would catch bass in the trout lakes and take them to like a cold mountain lake and pose them and claim the lake record. Some anglers claimed his fish were always caught under shady circumstances, that Mike Long wasn't catching these bass fairly at all, that he was snagging them. Snagging is when you use a treble hook to foul hook a fish, often during the spawn when they're shallow and guarding beds. The trophy bass anglers, it's one of the dirtiest tricks in the book. But for years, no one could prove it. Mike Long kept fishing, kept catching, and kept building his legend. Still, the whispers never stopped. In 2019, the truth finally came out. An outdoor writer and angler, Bill Samantel, along with others in the fishing community, exposed Mike Long with hidden camera footage. The video showed Mike not casting the bass, but dragging treble hooks across the water, deliberately snagging spawning fish in the side. For years, anglers had suspected it, but now the evidence was clear. The fishing world was shocked. Forums blew up. Magazines and websites that once praised him quickly turned. The so-called Big Bass King wasn't a king at all. he was a cheat. Allegedly. The revelation crushed his reputation overnight. For many, it was like finding out your favorite athlete had been juicing the whole time. The empire collapsed, and Mike Long's name became synonymous with scandal. So where is Mike Long today? After the footage was released, he disappeared from the spotlight. No more tournaments, no more magazine covers, no more chasing lake records. The fishing community largely erased him. Once praised, he's now ignored, or worse, remembered only as a cautionary tale. From the outside, it seems Mike Long has faded into obscurity, living quietly, his days of chasing glory long behind him. In the end, the story of Mike Long and Dottie isn't just about one fish or one man. It's about obsession, about fame, and about how far some people will go for recognition. Dottie has long since passed away, but her legacy as one of the greatest bass of all time still lives on. She was real, she was honest, she was unforgettable. Mike Long, his name will live on too, but not for the reasons he once dreamed. All right, guys, thanks for watching this deep dive into one of the bass fishing's most controversial figures. If you enjoyed the story, hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what fishing story you want to hear next. Because in the world of fishing, there are plenty more tales waiting to be told.